Our first speaker is Shira Lotzar, and she is Chief Engagement Officer at Purposeful Hire, where she helps associations and for-profit clients with recruiting, career coaching, and executive coaching. Within her recruiting and coaching practices, Shira helps create highly engaged workplaces by focusing on the mutual purpose of both employees and employers. This commitment is evidenced in the tagline for Purposeful Hire, which is, "For every hire, a higher purpose." Her personal hire calling is infused into every aspect of her business, as she genuinely believes that our work has a divine purpose and that her mission is to find her clients' purpose. In her volunteer work, Shira has created Hire Moment Mastermind, a program she developed to counsel job seekers, and Boomer Works, a program directed to individuals 50 and over that wish to transition to self-employment. Shira has also served on the boards of the HR Leadership Forum, the DC Society of Human Resource Management, and committee roles for the American Society of Association Executives. Please join me in welcoming Shira to the stage.
In today's society, we have been fed a steady stream of one message. It's all about you. Don't you know? It's all about your bank account. It's all about your success, your accomplishments. Oh, that humble brag on the LinkedIn profile, right? But that which we trust in has a hold over us. Would you agree? What happens when our bank account gets depleted? What happens when our health is in jeopardy? What happens when our accomplishments start to fade away? We can fall apart. Would you agree? I trusted for many years in performance. First, religious performance. I was raised a devout Jew, and I kept the Sabbath, and I kept the holidays, and I kept the observances, and I thought, you know, that was the way to get to God. That's what I was taught, right? My father is clergy, very well-meaning, and in truth, you know, that upbringing did lead me closer to God, because when I was 24 years old, I had an encounter with God that changed my life, and I met Jesus. He changed me forever, and he showed me that it's about relationship and not performance, and yet, somewhere deep down, I still thought that performance was what it was about. And so I wanted to be a good Christian, and I would check the boxes. I still had relationship, but I was still in performance. And I was also in performance mode with my work, right? You see, we're all gifted. I believe we all have divine superpowers, right? We all do. And look at all of you here. You're successful and you're, right, well accomplished. We all have superpowers. And yet, when we rely on those superpowers, when we forget the giver of the gifts, things can fall apart. And one of the things that I relied on was my mental acuity, was my intellect. I got complimented for things like what I'm doing right now. Oh, Shira, you're such a good public speaker, don't you know? Right? And I'd say, oh, but bless the Lord, and to God be the glory. And I meant it, and yet, when people like you would come up here after I did things like this and say, oh, but Shira, so beautiful, oh, so articulate, and I would give God the glory, and yet somewhere inside I'd say, oh, well, you know, right? Let's be real. But the things fell apart for me all of a sudden. I have been preaching the message of it's not about you for many years. Be careful of what you preach, you just might be tested on it. Last April 2021, my world fell apart because God took his hand of peace off of my life for just a minute, for 18 months long, just a minute, when I was suddenly attacked with severe anxiety. It came out of the blue. I had never had it before. I lost my mind. I lost my mind. I would be hearing things. I would have panic attacks. I was afraid of touching things. I was hearing voices in my head. I was hearing things about God that were untrue, that I knew were untrue. The accuser, enemy, Satan, is the accuser of the brethren. He was accusing me, accused other people through me. It was horrible. It was horrible. My poor husband had to live with me through this, prayed with me. People prayed for me. I prayed for me. And thank God I had known Jesus for the years that I have, for 28 years, because I was praying all the time. I was saying, Jesus is Lord, because I was hearing the opposite. I was hearing the opposite. I was hearing that God didn't even exist. I mean, I was hearing things I couldn't believe I was hearing. But I stood on my faith. And God started to carry me through. And last October, I had a breakthrough. And little by little by little by little by little, every day I got a little bit better and a little bit better. And here's what started to happen. I started to ask God, why? Not why me, but why? What am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to learn? And he started to show me things about my life. He started to show me things about why I was being anxious. And he started to show me how my relationship to people. And one of the things he showed me that I was dealing with pride, superiority. Because all these compliments that I would be getting, right, went to my head. And what happened was, for years, and I would even tell my husband this, I'd say, there are only two places, when I'm in a crowd of people, there are only two places that I'd like to be, either up front, doing what I'm doing right now, or behind the scenes, doing the event planning thing, right? Like kind of making sure everybody's happy. I never wanted to be among people. I wasn't with people. I was in front of them or I was behind them, but I wasn't with and among because I was coming from up here. And God took me here, way down here. And how I carried on this business for a year and a half, completed 2 executive searches, I mean, clients, all of this, in the middle of all this anxiety, by the grace of God. And every time I was on a Zoom call, I would be envious of people who were looking normal because I wasn't. I was falling apart. Every day I'd get up, panic attacks, just to get myself out of bed. I literally was counting the minute. Have you ever been through this? Minute by minute, I'm like, can I make it to the next hour? Can I make it till tonight? That's where I was. And he started to heal me. And as he started to heal me, I started to understand and appreciate who he is and the peace of God that passes all understanding. Philippians 4:6-7 was a verse that he gave to me and had me memorize and speak out during, especially in the latter months when I was really trying to come out of it. And Philippians 4:6 says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, through prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God that passes all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. He showed me humility, what it is to be with people. Guess what? I'm with you all right now. Every one of you. I love you all. Every one of you, I'm with you. I'm not above you. I'm not below you. I'm with you. And I want you to be with each other. Whoever you are at these tables, whatever your title is, whatever your accomplishments, be with each other. Love each other. Reconcile with each other. Forgive each other. Humble yourselves before each other and before God, because he loves you beyond your title, beyond your accomplishments, beyond any anxiety that you might feel. He loves you deeply, and he wants you to love each other. And he wants you to experience this peace that passes all understanding. He wants you to experience this peace because his peace is glorious. And guess what? We don't know what we've got until it's gone. I never knew what it was to be in peace until it was gone. And here's what happens. When the peace leaves you, when the trial comes, guess what God's heart is? Seek after him. When you are in your lowest, run after him. Don't run away. Run after him. That's what I had to do. I sought after him. The more desperate I became, the more I needed his presence, the more I needed his peace. About 6 months ago, as I was in this healing journey, I was praying about, again, what should I learn from this, Lord? And he downloaded something to me. God spoke to me. And he gave me a word, and I journaled it. I ended up first sharing it with my small group, the Bible study that my husband and I go to. And I want to read it to you, because it has to do with suffering. It has to do with trial. And I'd like you to listen with all your heart to this. This is what God said to me. If there was no sin, there would be no suffering. Sin, meaning missing the mark from God, led to pride, which led to arrogance and self-determination and self-sufficiency. It made us think we didn't need God. He uses suffering to remind us of him, to notice him, to crave fellowship with him, to trust him. His goodness is allowing us to experience pain so we would want to seek relationship. Pain is the scalpel God uses to get to our heart. God bless you.